Boeing is once again under intense scrutiny after dozens were injured when a plane plummeted mid-air during a flight from Sydney to Auckland. This was the chaos on board the LATAM Airlines flight.
Hey, over here! Over here! He's bleeding quite badly. Are you okay? Yeah? Sure?
Joining us now is passenger Nurhian Dulay, live from Auckland, and aviation lawyer Peter Carter. Thank you both for your time, Nurhian. I want to come to you first because we were all terrified just watching that vision, but you actually experienced it. What was that like in there?
It was horrifying, for sure. It came out of nowhere, and it was just the biggest drop I've ever experienced in a plane. So lots of people screaming, definitely a lot of fear.
Did you get injured? Were you buckled up? What happened to you?
I was buckled up, thankfully, as were the people next to me. But just witnessing that number of people, fly into the roof of a plane and visibly crash was horrifying.
It is the stuff of nightmares for any passenger on board a flight, right? You never want that to happen and you can't believe it when it does. And I guess it begs the question, how did it happen? Has the airline offered anything to make up for that terrifying experience, an explanation at least?
As far as I know, there's been no explanation. I don't remember hearing anything while I was on the plane. And in terms of after getting off the flight, I haven't heard anything about an explanation.
I mean, that's pretty poor, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely makes it a little bit scarier to fly again, not knowing what caused that.
Where does that leave you as a member of the flying public?
I mean, I have to fly back to Sydney at the end of this week, so I will be getting on a flight again, but it's definitely not something I'm necessarily looking forward to anymore.
The same airline?
No, thankfully.
Yeah, this is the result, right? I mean, a similar incident happened on a Qantas flight back in 2008. In that case, dozens of passengers suffered significant injuries and the airline had to cough up some serious compensation. Aviation lawyer Peter Carter, I want to bring you in now because those passengers, right, they had more significant injuries, we know that, but on that flight they were compensated. Do the passengers on this LATAM Airlines flight, do you think, have a good case for compensation too?
Yes, they certainly do. It depends on the extent of injury. In the Qantas accident, there was some serious spinal injuries, and we know at least one of the passengers in this case is being treated for something similar. So the compensation could be very substantial, and all the passengers who suffer injuries are entitled to compensation either against the airline and potentially also against Boeing or a component manufacturer.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Who is in the firing line in this instance?
Well, the airline fronts up first, but it's quite possible that when they analyse what the cause of the fault is, then it could be the component manufacturer or Boeing, the manufacturer itself.
We had a former Qantas pilot on earlier, Richard Crespigny. He was talking about seatbelts. If the passengers weren't wearing seatbelts, does that indemnify the operators or only if they ignored calls to wear seatbelts?
No, look, airlines often call this out, but people move around the aircraft. They're entitled to do that. They're entitled to go to the lavatory and return. So not having a seatbelt on is no bar to a claim, and it shouldn't ever be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Peter and Nurhian, thank you so much for joining us. Local passengers are still searching for an explanation for the sudden drop on a flight from Sydney to Auckland that left dozens injured.
Geez, you'd be livid, wouldn't you? And the incident is fueling broader concerns on airline safety following a series of mishaps. Joining us to explain is former Qantas pilot Richard Crespigny. Richard, good morning to you. Nice to see you, Captain, as we call you. Are we any further to knowing what went wrong?
No one in an official capacity has released any more information, but more news is coming out that the computers on board needed resetting at certain intervals. Maybe those resets were needed and weren't done by maintenance. Maybe the resets weren't required. But if the computers reset because if the computers weren't reset, it's a bit like the operations room here at this TV station with 100 cameras coming in, all going black, and information not being sent around the aircraft. That could cause autopilots to disconnect, all kinds of problems. So that's something which I'm sure everyone's going to look at, and that is where the concern is, although there's no definitive information yet.
So a man-made issue, not a machine issue?
Well, the software's not perfect. No software is. Cars need to be reset as well. Your iPhones need to be reset.
You don't want to reset at 38,000 feet.
No.
No, you don't. But this is why we have pilots. When things go wrong and software does go wrong, we have pilots there.
I guess at the end of the day, some part of this issue is there have been ongoing issues. We'll get to those in a second, but a viewer sent us this photo yesterday. This is the same airline 2 weeks ago going to New Zealand. Now, I've seen this before, a lot of duct tape all over the aircraft's wing. That does cause you a little bit of concern. The problem for him was, who was on this plane, the duct tape started coming up and bits of the wing started kind of moving away from the wing itself. Is that an issue?
It's not a good look. The issue with these new aircraft is they're composite, the carbon fibre. It's very hard to get paint to attach to carbon fibre. In fact, your push bikes generally aren't painted if they're carbon fibre. And this aircraft goes through temperature changes. It's a harsh environment for paint. Paint chips off, so to protect the surface underneath, maybe a thin metal foil to protect from lightning. They'll cover the wing in duct tape to protect that foil. It's temporary and it doesn't look good, but it's not a risk to safety.
Well, the other recent example, of course, was on Monday that United Airlines flight forced to turn back to Sydney on its way to San Fran just 2 hours into the journey because of smoke coming from a wheel.
Well, people thought it was smoke. It was just simply a hydraulic leak coming probably out of the brakes. The hydraulic pressure can be up to 3,000 or 5,000 pounds per square inch. So it comes out as a vapour. It looks like fuel. It's not. There are at least 3 hydraulic systems on modern aircraft. So to lose one is not a big concern.
Okay, so the US Department of Justice has launched a full criminal investigation into Boeing following the Alaska Airlines flight earlier this year where the window blew open. Again, the succession of things that are adding up, you're saying it's not necessarily related just to the aircraft itself.
Oh, correct. It's perhaps the oversight, it's the designs, but you're hearing about this because the system's working. People are being critical, the safety regulators, the certifiers, and then the airlines can do something to take part. And at the end of the day, it's the pilots who are responsible for the lives of the passengers, no one else. And the pilots will be the last point of safety. And they might say, I'm not taking this aircraft. The system's working. Again, aviation is safe. The new aircraft are 9 times safer than the old conventional aircraft. So the system's working, and we're getting a lot of information in aviation that you normally don't get in other industries because we are unafraid to admit we've made a mistake so we can fix it.
Confidence is a tenuous thing with air travel.
And we need to keep a chronic unease for the status quo. You're always expecting something wrong to happen, and that's, again, why we have
You think they should be
cockpits.
open, up front and accountable to this and tell the public exactly what went wrong and quickly?
When things go wrong, you have to tell the media everything. That's what NASA did during Apollo. And you have to be open. People will understand if you're vulnerable and humble and give the facts. If you're hiding it, people get suspicious, conspiracies, distrust. No one wins. And I think the information has to come out faster in this incident than it is.
Good on you, Captain. Thank you.
Thanks. Hey there, Today fans. Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my goodness, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports, and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
that never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?